The pint's foam touched Warren's lips. His eyes closed as he concentrated on the bitter flavor. He'd been gasping for this all day. A thin stream poured out of the glass and onto his suit coat. "For God's sake," he mumbled to himself. He stood up, removing his coat. He covered the red surface of the stool and sat back down. He continued drinking. Warren's eyes glanced to his left. A large portrait of his brother's face stared back at him from the corner of the room. His eyes broke away immediately. A hand gripped his shoulder. "You know, Mark was a hell of a lad," said Warren's Uncle Kevin. His eyes unable to focus, struggling to keep his balance. The little shite got himself into some bother every once in a while, but he was a top bloke. Warren's attention drifted back to his beer. He didn't want to hear this. "Shut the fuck up," he repeated in his head. "Oi! Kev, come here," a voice shouted from across the room. Kevin patted Warren on the back and moved toward the call. Within seconds, a crowd of laughter harshly entered Warren's hearing. He grinned at his teeth. He downed the rest of his pint in a hurry. He turned and exited outside. He approached the picnic table, sitting. "Fucking hell," he sighed to himself. A sharp breeze was present. The sky was a miserable gray. Warren placed both palms on his face. He thought about the last conversation he ever had with Mark. "Mark, please. You're gonna get yourself killed." "Worry, I know what I'm doing, mate." The fucker is none the wiser. "I've been doing it for months. Eventually he's gonna notice some of his shit gone, you know." "Here we go again. Stop talking down to me like I'm a child. I know what I'm doing, bruv." Brief silence. "Look, just have some faith, yeah. When I have enough money saved, I'll scarp her off someplace. Somewhere warm, with class women. And you think it'll be that easy?" "I've never met the guy, but from what I hear, he's a nasty piece of work. It's just not worth the risk. That's all I'm saying. Worry, by the time he's figured it out, I'll be long gone. Lennox Pasternak isn't all that. His rep is just that, a rep. It's mostly lies. Mark, you don't have to do. I've gotta go, bruv. I'll swing by tomorrow at some point. We can catch up proper. I look forward to it, yeah, big dummy. Just be careful. Always am, worry, always am." Warren was ripped from deep thought by a faint whistle. Warren looked up. His eyes shot to the sidewalk across the street. Stood just a few feet away with their feet firmly planted on a path, was a large man. The word silencer was tattooed on his forehead. A thick chevron mustache, a bowl cut with bald sides, a blue polo shirt and jeans. The man glared in Warren's direction. "Excuse me, do you have a light?" said a voice. Warren turned his head. A thinly structured man wearing a mint green Adidas tracksuit stood in front of him. An anchor beard stuck to his face. His dirty blonde hair passed the shoulders by a few inches. Great thermal gloves covered his hands. "Sorry mate, I don't smoke," said Warren. "No bother then," said the man. Warren's eyes moved back to the sidewalk. The large mustached man was gone. "So, you a friend of the family then?" he continued. "He was my brother." "You know him?" "Mark?" "Yeah. We go way back." "Really? What, were you another one of his drinking pals?" Warren chuckled. "Something like that." He was a right laugh. "Wasn't enough to keep him out of trouble though, was it? 23 stabs wounds and a cut throat. That's what they did to him." Mark couldn't help himself sometimes. "I noticed that early on. Always dreamed big, but didn't have the patience to see things through." "Well fuck, for a drinking buddy, you sure know him well." "I liked your brother quite a bit. He had big potential. It's just a genuine shame that he chose to waste it." "Potential? Potential for what?" asked Warren. The man approached and sat down next to Warren. He smiled. "Are you a greedy man?" "Come again?" Ward said, mildly confused. "Are you a greedy man?" I've had my moments over the years." "Greed? Time and time again, I come across it. I've given chance after chance, yet, in the end, I'm always disappointed. I can't tell you just how frustrating that is. How angry it makes me feel." The man's friendly demeanor faded. "Warren, I'm sorry about your brother, I really am. But all of this could have been avoided had he not succumbed to his greedy urges. He could have made it good, eventually. He could have been somebody." Fear started to grow gradually within Warren. Its pace picked up when he heard heavy breaths coming from behind him. He turned his head. The large mustached man stood inches away, staring down at him. "Don't worry, Peter is harmless most of the time. He's one of the best men I know. Not an ounce of greed in him. I thought the same about Mark, but well, you know." In that moment, Warren came to a realization. Unfortunately, Mark was one of many to think that he was a clever cunt. But what he didn't realize is that I'm the cleverest cunt around these parts. Nothing gets past me, I notice everything. And just like the others, I had to make an example out of Mark. To show everyone what happens when you steal from me. The man leaned as close as he could to Warren's ear. "Greed is a dangerous game, mate. Your brother learned that the hard way." With an almost sympathetic expression on his face, the man gently tapped Warren on the hand as he stood up. He made eye contact with Peter, his silencer. He gave a subtle nod. Both men began to walk away. Warren looked on, horrified, disturbed, sickened. The man in the Adidas tracksuit stopped and turned toward Warren's direction. He waved, with the biggest smile on his face. Then, he resumed movement, jogging toward Peter. Warren sat there, with one word replaying in his mind over and over again. Greed.